Hello and welcome to this evening, this morning's, yesterday's, tomorrow's Global Star Party time zones. I'm feeling sleepy today because it's currently 3 o'clock in the morning. But welcome to what is titled optimistically the Western Nighttime Edition, where the aim is to get live views of the night sky from the American side of this planet. Unfortunately, either clouds, time, light, etc. has meant that we have the wonderful Paul giving us live views of the sun in multiple wavelengths of light. So welcome to this evening's show. We have lots of flickery stuff to show you. Lots of pictures have been submitted on our Flickr group. And we have live sun, assuming the clouds stay away. They are occasionally interfering. So if you're wondering what you're joining, this is the weekly show where we stream live views of things in space, and we also discuss the science behind them, talk about how we get these images, and also look at some awesome images that we get submitted to the show as well. Joining me this evening is Dylan, who's currently got a little co-host with him.
Hey everybody, I'm on dad duties today, so I'm not 100% tuned in, but I am here with my son. Say hello.
Hello.
And,
Hello.
I've got a couple of photos that I can share from my astrophotography from this week, and we've got some great stuff in the Flickr as well. So yeah, it's not the full show we hoped for, but we'll try our best.
We do try, and Paul, as ever, is well. I mean, look at that. I mean, I'm just gonna. That's it. I'm done. I'm just taking it off the controller. I'm just gonna, look at this now. Oh, nice one. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, it's a semi-sunny day down here.
It's sunny enough from the looks of it. I'm liking this view. Awesome. Cheers. All right then, folks. Well, I'm going to click back on me now, I'm afraid, because I don't want to give the full thing right away. So welcome to the show. As I said, it's kind of we have the one live view of the sun. Andrew did join us earlier with his view, so if he's able to come back into the show, then we should have some more to show you. And even I managed to get some clear sky this week and take a photo of something in space as well. So, all in all, it's been not that week. Getting one day clear and the end of British summer is a small miracle. So, welcome to the show. If you have any questions about what we're looking at, whether it be the pictures that we're going to show you or the live views that Paul is bringing, then you can join us for the Q&A app. If you're watching on YouTube or on the event page, somewhere at the bottom of the screen will be Q&A. You can click on that. You can say hi, and you can ask us questions. I would say you can make demands of us and, the whole slewing and looking at objects thing, but we have the sun. And Dylan. We can always check out Dylan. That's not a problem. And Andrew has popped in, you see. Speak of the devil, and, so he appears. So, awesome. Right then. Well, I am going to just click on Paul's live view, and I'm just going to go multiple wavelengths of light. And then I'm going to click on Dylan and check out the whole Flickr thing. See, I'm just teasing the live views right now, but, got to be done. Oh, and actually, no, I'm going to click on Andrew as well. Like, look at this. Multiple. We have all three common wavelengths of light you can look at the sun in. But I'm going to click on Dylan and go, ooh, galaxy.
Okay, so this is one that Andrew was imaging last night. We actually had a
private hangout where we just hung out like this while we were doing our imaging, and Andrew was doing a run of these on his DSLR, and I'll let Andrew tell us about it if you can. Are you there, Andrew?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
loud and clear.
All right. Yeah, this is NGC 253. I was taking photos of that last night while, we were having a bit of a live hangout. And, it's a series of, I think, 50 exposures at 5 minutes each. And, I just combined them all in PixInsight and come across this nice image. And I'm quite happy with this one. It turned out really well.
So you should
Very
be.
noise-free, and I can see those dust lanes really clearly. It's excellent work.
Nice.
Yeah, I hit the focus pretty well, spot on for about 30 of the exposures. 20 of them were a little bit iffy. I forgot to focus when I first started the run, so they were a little bit out, but hopefully it didn't degrade the image too much.
It definitely doesn't look like it. That's a lovely shot, actually. Galaxies. They're so pretty.
While we're here, let's just run through some of the other shots that were submitted to our Flickr group, which is fantastic. Every week I come here and I load them up and go, holy crap. This is the International Space Station. These are tricky shots to get because these are lit, so you can see the light on the space station, and it's traveling rapidly across the sky. So in just a few frames, you can see how quickly it turns and rotates. So it's very hard to get images like this, and your tracking has got to be pretty spot on. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Didier Alberget, but you've sent us a few images this week, and they're all really, really great. So thanks for that. Next one here is from the same person, Didier Alberget. And I really like this. It's a very basic starfield shot, but it's got all the branches and the foreground really in your face, and it's the foreground makes a huge difference when we're doing these sorts of wide Milky Way and starfield images, and to see them shining through the tiny little fractal kind of branches is really something. So it's a really nice one. I just wanted to show off that one. And another one from the same person of a transit of a plane. You can see the trails there, the chemtrails perhaps on the jet going past. And that was a joke, by the way. We don't believe in chemtrails. And I think this is from a little while ago. This is from last year, but a really, really nice shot. This one's from Ralph Smythe. Thanks for submitting this, Ralph. We did see another Heart Nebula last week, but this one has more of the HA right in the front, so you can see all of these faint details. And I really like it when people do astrophotography and deep space astrophotography, and they don't push the black point too far, because it would have been very tempting and very easy to just pull that black point slider across and make the black truly black. As you can see on the edge here, the black of space here is not truly black compared to its frame. But when you do that, you lose a lot of this awesome detail in the fainter areas. So just remember that as you do your processing. If you are doing astrophotography, don't push that black too much. Try and pull out a little bit of that. I know it seems counterintuitive because we just think of space as black, and we like to make it black like that, but you do lose a lot of that outer detail. So it's really nice to see a bright image like this. Thanks, Ralph. And this other one that I wanted to highlight was from Mike Riggett, the unmistakable Andromeda Galaxy, which is a favourite of mine, and I'm hugely jealous of people that can take pictures like this in the Northern Hemisphere, because I certainly can't. We do get this object in view, but it's so low on the horizon that there's no way in hell I could do anything like this from where I am. So really, really nice to see all those beautiful stars. And that's it for me. But I believe, before we go back to the live solar views, I believe you took an image this week, Chris.
It's true. I just have to cue that up, actually. Yeah, I actually managed to get clear skies. Admittedly, it rolled in fog before I could get all the data I wanted, and this is kind of this was a quick go at trying to learn how to use my mount, which just sat behind me. So, yes, I have got a new mount, so I've been learning how to use it, and in fact, the whole learning process has been quite fun because I recently learned that I can use one of these to control my telescope, and it makes. Well, I'm a gamer, so this to me makes a lot more sense. And also, I can reverse everything, so now up is not left and down isn't right. Everything makes sense now. So that is a great addition to any telescope and also any gaming experience. But yeah, so I got around to imaging a truly northern hemisphere object, and I'm going to click on that and I'll start screen sharing it now. So hopefully you guys can see that in just a second. So you guys should be looking at, well, M82, otherwise known as the Cigar Galaxy. It probably has an NGC number as well, but I can never remember the NGC numbers of objects. So yeah, it's M82. You can find it on the control panel of your telescope if you really need to, just by typing that in. It's a starburst galaxy in the constellation of Ursa Major. They call it a starburst galaxy because it has an abnormally high amount of star formation going on. It's actually really luminous. This galaxy is, I think it's 5 times more luminous than our own galaxy. So it's pretty bright, especially when this is a stack of all the exposures were 6 minutes in length, shot RG and B. So I had 3 hours worth of data acquisition. Well, actually more, because I lost quite a bit due to the wind and other weather conditions that were kind of making this a lot harder than it should have been. So this is pretty bright. I want more data to kind of get rid of the graininess out of the image. And did you do this in narrowband? This is using just your regular RGB filters that you use, say, for planetary or non-emission nebula, etc. Obviously,
the colours are really nice.
I live in light polluted Mansfield, England, so I am limited to the exposure time I can get with this setup because the sky eventually washes out quite quickly. I want to image this in hydrogen alpha because you can probably just see towards the center of the galaxy there's this kind of fuzziness that kind of stretches outwards. Well, if I had that in hydrogen alpha, so that specific wavelength of light, this galaxy has 2 kind of splash jets coming out each side of it, which I believe has something to do with the star formation that's going on with the galaxy, although I haven't managed to do much research on that yet. But it adds a whole new dimension to this image. So that is a plan for the next time I get a clear day. So, well, clear night, should I say. And I also want to photograph its companion galaxy, M81, which is a more kind of flat-on spiral galaxy and much larger to image as well. But yeah, I was quite pleased with this. The last time I photographed this was end of 2013, I think, when there was I think it was 2004. Maybe 2014, the start of, there was a supernova going on, and I managed to capture it with my SLR camera. I got, I think, 5 frames, so a very, very noisy image. But yeah, I'm loving the mount, and I'm also loving the camera. I've got quite a bit of learning to do yet, but yeah, it's quite nice to take this one. I'm glad to be able to share something that I've actually done this week for once. So, makes a change, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a lovely galaxy.
Image of the same. Is it the same one with its companion?
Ah, yes. Well,
yeah, I'm assuming you didn't take this, Andrew. And if you did, my hat's off to you, sir.
I just did a quick Google search, so I thought I'd put that up for you.
Nice. Yes, you can see those jets coming out of M82 and. That's a heck of an image, isn't it? Okay, that makes me slightly sad.
That's the one thing you should do when you're out there imaging is don't Google what you're doing. because you'll find Hubble images and you'll find people who have dedicated observatories, and it just makes you so depressed.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say this is. I was like, yeah, but it's always one of those things. You take a photograph of something, you're like, yes, look at that, it's amazing. And then someone somewhere, normally David Peach, shows you a picture of like you, and you got ashamed. You're like, no, I'm going to hide this picture now. Would you believe it? Look, I'm going to click on Paul, and you see now clouds are just trying to hide his view. So I'm going to click on Andrew's. Oh, no, there's something there. Right, I'm going to click on Andrew, who has the white light view of our dear and delightful sun. Nice image there, Andrew. How are you? What's the setup to get this image?
Just got a ZWO ASI 120mm stuck in the front of my 8-inch f4 telescope with a beta solar film filter on it, which has only got a 50mm aperture on it, so it's not full aperture.
It's still, you've got night. I mean, your focus is really spot on there. You can see lovely granulation of the image, really.
Yeah, and this is AR 2412 and 2414. I believe 2414 is the smaller of them and has according to space weather, has a beta gamma magnetic field that harbors energy for M-class solar flares. So hopefully we'll be getting some northern lights out of this.
That would be nice, or a clear day in this country, so I can take some photographs of them before they rotate out of view, which is normally the way. Well, I think I've jinxed it. Just Paul, bless him. He is actually sharing, believe it or not, these two dark screens. One is calcium K clouds, and the other one is hydrogen alpha clouds.
We missed our opportunity because I was rabbiting on. But while we wait for those clouds to pass, I'll just quickly share something that I imaged about 12 hours ago, and I really just did it to stick it to Chris because he's been digging at me about not doing stuff without my hyperstar. So here it is. I've done an image without the hyperstar. I'm using the full focal length of my Schmidt-Cassegrain. It's imaged in f10, so I'm not even using a focal reducer. But thankfully the target, and really I can only do this with really, really bright targets. So this is the internal section of M8, the Lagoon Nebula. This object is much, much wider than you see here, and I've done it in hyperstar before, which makes it, you get 4 times the field of view that we have here. But because it is so bright, I was able to draw out a lot of the detail in there. Now I haven't processed this properly yet. This is just a quick stack and stretch. I haven't even done any calibration or flat fielding or darks or anything like that. But I really like how you can see the internal structure of that big dust band that goes across that way. And you can see the really delicate sort of filaments and sinews of these the nebula in there, and that's stuff that I don't normally get on my hyperstar. I get a really nice wide view, but I never get any of this sort of these tiny Bok globules and things like that. So I'm quite happy with this, and I'm hoping to spend a little more time processing it when I get a chance. Back to you.
Well, I'm just going to keep looking at this because you've got a lovely image here, but I'm just going to say one word, Dylan. Mosaic.
Yes, that's the next challenge, of course, and there's different software that'll do it. I'm using a lot of the free stuff right now, or cheap stuff, but I do hope to get into Sequence Generator Pro eventually. When I get down that route, I'll probably start doing automated mosaic sweeps and things like that. But yeah, I must thank you, Chris. Thank you for kicking me in the bum and making me go out and put the camera on the back of the telescope for once. I'm ashamed to say that I hadn't actually done it once since I bought the Edge HD about 6-7 months ago. So it was nice to actually see it that I can still do that.
And I was going to say, I mean, you obviously, the longer the focal length, the more sensitive it is to weather conditions and tracking, and it does really add extra headaches. But you've got a lovely picture there, so I really reckon Mosaic is the next stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. And then you can have that beautiful wide field view, but with all the tiny details too. Now, as clouds have attacked Paul, darn it, we could just look at this, multiple wavelengths of light. Paul, tell us all about this one.
This is yesterday's sun in 3 wavelengths. The top purpley one will be calcium K at 393 nanometers. The yellowy one on the left is in white light, which I was using a Barter continuum filter, so it's at 554, I think, nanometers. And the other one's hydrogen alpha at 656 nanometers.
And look at that. You've got, well, just loads and loads of detail. I mean, I love looking at the different wavelengths of light. I mean, I found with imaging with filters that to look at a nebula in one wavelength and then another one, they look like almost different nebulas. And to look at the sun as well, it has that kind of similar effect. And of course, you're looking at different layers of the sun as well. I can never remember which way around it goes, but white light is everything. Hydrogen alpha is the atmosphere, and calcium K is, I'm never entirely sure.
I was going to ask Paul, if you were to then combine these images into like a HDR kind of stack, how much rotation do you get in the difference? Like, what's the time difference between each of these 3?
There'll be hardly any rotation there. They'll taken straight after each other.
Excellent.
I was going to say, I have actually mentioned a couple of times that I'd love to see a composite of the 3 wavelengths kind of stacked on top of each other. I'm not sure entirely how to go about that, but I've seen it done once before. I don't think I'll find it again, but it did look pretty cool.
I have to confess, I have, because Paul images a lot, and I have taken some of Paul's images and just quickly composited them together on my screen just to see. But this one looks like a good one to try.
So, I mean, hydrogen alpha is the wavelength of light I look at with my setup. I've never actually done white light. That's something I could do actually. Just getting that film filtery stuff. It's like tin foil. It looks like. And stick that in front of the lens. But of course, don't try to look at stuff through tin foil. It won't really work. That's a lovely set of images, Paul. Have you ever, I'm just curious, talking about the rotation as well, have you ever tried to image the sun throughout the entire day and just kind of create an animation of the whole disk rotating? I know it's quite slow, but...
The clouds never let me do that.
Yes, pesky clouds. I was going to say, the clouds have never let me do Jupiter, and Jupiter takes 10 hours to do an entire rotation. The sun obviously takes quite a bit longer, but hopefully one day we'll get one with no clouds, and you can do that. No pressure. And talking of the sun and its rotation and its movement, Dylan has a really rather interesting image that I'll let him explain, but I think this is really cool and something certainly worth checking out and doing possibly yourselves. So Dylan, take it away.
So this is something that we had on the show a while back from one of the other guys, and it's actually, you see something similar in the intro video of the show as well. But for all the money and all the equipment that we invest into this hobby, this is something that you can do for less than $10 or less than $5. To be honest, if I really did the maths, this is probably under a couple of bucks. I put this camera together with a can of VB beer. I just cut the top off and I inserted a piece of photo paper and pricked a little hole in the side of it, taped it all up with duct tape and taped it to my window for 7 days. The can slipped a little bit, so you can see this blue shimmer here is where in the last few days the can slipped because of the heat of the sun melted my duct tape away a little bit. But these streaks up here are the path of the sun, and the sun starts over here each day and moves upwards and goes across the sky over to the west. And these little dots here are where you can see it shining through the tree, and where you get the breaks here are when clouds have stopped the sunlight coming through. So we had a few cloudy days here. But it's really interesting just to see day by day how far shift in Earth's tilt as we go around the sun is, so that you can see that, and this is what causes the seasons, and this is why we have short days and long days, because the path actually changes. And it's really nice to see it come out with just a few bucks worth of stuff. And I can give you an example of the camera. This was the camera, and you can see it's just an empty beer can with duct tape, and I've got a little pinprick hole in the front there. And I can show you the photo paper. Now when the photo comes out, it looks inverted. So that's the photo as it came out, and I scanned that in and then just inverted it in Photoshop. So there really is no processing. There's no chemicals. There's no it's not very hard at all. That's the photo paper I use, which I just got off eBay for about $30. And there's enough paper in here. There's sheets and sheets of the stuff. So there's enough paper in here to do literally hundreds of those. So very, very cheap way to get into solar photography.
I like it, and anything like that is interesting. It's interesting to look at, and it's a great kind of thing. I think you could get school kids and people like that to kind of do that kind of thing and set it up and then see that. I think to visually demonstrate that movement of the tilt, like you mentioned, is really quite fascinating, because you guys are heading into summer and I'm now heading into winter. So yeah, my sun is getting lower and lower in the sky, whilst yours is getting higher and higher. So yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to give that a go myself, actually, because you can see behind me pretty big south-facing window doors. So yeah. Yeah,
okay, cool.
I'm going to nick that idea and try it out myself. Now, obviously, because Andrew is still bringing us the live, so I'm just going to check out his lovely view of the sun there.
Yeah, this is the other spot. Let me see. 2415.
For the numerically intrigued, these spots get given numbers to identify them. I'm not sure how the numbers are determined exactly. Again, I'm going to have to Google that myself one day. I just like them because they look pretty in their sort of magnetic field and awesome. These are obviously a smaller coupling. I think I can see 1, 2, 3, 6. I think I can see 6 spots in there. 2 quite clear ones, 2 little ones between them, and then 2 faint ones just up to the and the zooming occurs. Yes, I like that. And you can see the kind of lighter umbra actually just kind of show up even in white light, with that kind of lightening around the edges of the sunspot region. I mean, sunspots are they're cooler regions of the sun, which was why they show up darker, although cooler still being really, really rather hot. You couldn't stand there. And again, to give everyone a sense of scale, the sunspots we're looking at here are larger than the very planet you're currently sat on watching this show. So just to give you a sense of scale. Although I was watching, there's a fantastic series on YouTube done by the bad astronomer Phil Plait. He did recently an episode on supernovae, and he was describing Canis Majoris, which, if we could image that one in this kind of detail, that'd be amazing, because that star is roughly 2 billion kilometers across. The orbit of Mars would fit inside that star. It is that massive. Our sun is beautiful, scary big, but still quite puny to some of the other stars out there. Which is always one of those things that I used to terrify my old next door neighbour when I lived in a different house, and I used to look at the sun. And now, if I click on Paul's view, well, past view, this is a calcium K view. When was this taken? Is this one you should have said, the triplet?
No, this is today's one before the clouds arrived. It's the same spot that Andrew's looking at.
Fantastic. And again, with calcium K, white light, and hydrogen alpha, you see different details. Calcium K is more towards the purple end of the spectrum, hence why this Paul's image has been purpleized. That's the scientific term for it. It's a lovely shot, Paul. Now, when you got this shot, was this are you able to image the entire of the sun with your setup, or is this kind of a cropped view? You don't get the whole view. Oh no, the whole lot's there. Nice.
So the calcium K, contrary to how it looks, is actually 2,000 kilometers higher than the photosphere that we normally see with the white light and the hydrogen alpha. The blue light is emitted by ionized calcium atoms, and that allows us to see some of the magnetic structure going on around the sun. So yeah, even though it does look like that kind of textured surface, it is actually above the surface. It's the chromosphere.
I was going to say, the sun is I mean, I'd like to say maybe some stars in general, but the sun is an odd one because the surface is roughly, I think it's like 5,000 degrees centigrade, something like that. So incredibly hot. You know, you can certainly do eggs quite quickly on it. But the actual higher up in the atmosphere you go, the hotter it gets. In fact,
that's right.
Up to several 100,000 degrees centigrade. So as we're heading towards the kind of the ultraviolet end of the spectrum of the calcium K, you're actually looking at a much hotter region of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Although 2,000 kilometers from this kind of distance isn't really going to be measurable in terms of pixel width comparing the two images against each other, but that's so yeah. I suppose that's the sun's kind of atmosphere, even further up. That's kind of cool. Thanks for that, Dylan. I'm glad you're there. The facts and the Googles. And there's some lower atmosphere going on. You see, I mean, calcium K is something I'd love to image, but I still have a soft spot for hydrogen alpha because you get to see all these other kind of details going on.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the prominences or filaments, depending on which angle you're looking at. Sunspots again, and I'm going to say, Paul, you've got some very bright white areas on the disk there. Is that blooming, or is this kind of some kind of flare?
It's just a processing artifact.
Darn processing artifacts. Although it still looks pretty cool. You could have said flares, and I've been like totally convinced. I did notice in the Q&A with regards to the whole solar cam imaging the sun over the time was a very positive yes. So I think it's something I really have to try that out actually. Although I don't have that specific brand of beer in the country, so I don't have to find a different beer to unfortunately drink.
Believe me, I chose the cheapest beer possible so that I could make a lot of them.
There you go. There's a pro tip. If you're going to do this and you want to save some pennies doing it, go for cheap beer. That's the pro tip. And then we're looking at white light. Although Paul, your image isn't particularly white. You've yellowed it.
Yes, I've yellowed it.
You've made a biscuit. Nice. Now, of course, yeah. I suppose everyone's like, but the sun's yellow. That's our atmosphere doing that to because the sun, if you're in space, is just bright white. And also echoing really, really badly. I don't know why I'm echoing lots. But I can hear my own voice, and that's upsetting. It's never a good thing. I was going to say one thing I've learned. Denise says, yeah, it's a great idea for students. Yeah, I think it's something that I think kids would really get something out of. You have to have a bit of patience, but if any kids learn from growing sunflowers, that a bit of patience can pay off. So, yeah.
Yeah, what I was happy to discover was that the image that you get out of it can really be one day. So you can do a 24-hour image. But if you want to, you can leave that camera up for 6 months or a year if you can get it still and stable enough. So yeah, it is something you can get quick results out of. The only thing that is probably not the best for students is if you don't have really good tin snips, you end up with these sharp edges around the edge. So maybe the teacher can do that bit, but otherwise it's seriously primary level craft.
Actually, I was going to say, you could avoid. I'm just thinking out here. You could avoid the whole tin can side of things if you use paper cups, something like that. Would that be sturdy enough?
The only thing with paper is that often these things are going to be out in the weather. So the can thing really comes into its own because it's dark and it's solid. So it really makes sense to stick it outside. The other thing to remember is that it has happened to more than a few solarigraphers, which is the official word for this pinhole beer can photography. If you do stick one outside somewhere, try and leave a little note on it, because people have had the bomb squad and the SWAT team called in because of these weird pipe-shaped objects stuck onto bridges and things like that. So just leave a note so that people know what it is.
Yeah, because that'd be quite a tale to tell. Yeah, what happened? Yeah, they blew up my tin can.
Right.
That'd be fantastic. Now then, I'm going to click on Andrew here, who's got some kind of eclipse thing going on here.
Yeah, if you're in the southern part of Africa and you're watching at the moment, I think if the sun is rising, you'll be by the moon in a couple of hours, apparently. So, yeah, something to look out for if you're in that area of the world. You've got 2 hours, 3 minutes. So.
If only we timed the GSP to fit with that and found someone in that side of the world to stream the view live. Oh, darn it. Oh, well. I'm going to click on Paul. Because Paul is, he's cheating. He's not. This isn't live because it's daytime for Paul. But what are we looking at here, Paul?
This is Comet C 2013 US 10 Catalina, which is currently whizzing through the solar system at the moment.
It's the comet of the moment right now, Catalina, and it's getting better and better. And we've seen some excellent images coming from the big guns and Damien Peach and all those guys, and whizzing past clusters and the like. But I think, Andrew, you've been doing some as well. You might have a colour version of this from the last few nights. If you've got one, just if you can show us some of your recent Catalina work as well. Paul, whereabouts is Catalina right now?
That's a very good question. I haven't seen it for a few days.
Quick, everyone load up star charts. I was going to say, I mean, if I was being more dramatic when describing this image, when I say, Paul, what are we looking at right now? It's like, billions of stars. So that's a beautiful dense star field there. So that's got to be towards the center of our galaxy or thereabouts. I'm just going to stare at that comet for a bit there. That's a lot. I've not imaged. Well, I've imaged a comet wide field, but I've not done one through a telescope. So that's something I want to do, which I believe I'll be able to do with this comet. I've seen the image. Dylan's just loaded up on his. It's one of those images.
Yes, I'm sorry about this, but we don't have a lot of material today, so I'm just working with what I've got. This is a composite of two of my images. It's completely fake. I release all of my images into the public domain, so I fully expect this to show up on some new age claptrap anytime soon. So you might see this floating around on Facebook with some fake claims about the moon and what have you.
Wait, hang on, I'm sorry to interrupt you here. You mean the moon didn't break the Roche limit and just like suddenly appear massive in the sky?
Not at all. In fact, there's two moons in this picture. That's the actual moon rise over the East Cape of Australia here, and this is the half phase moon, 50% moon just superimposed over the top of it.
Whoa!
Of course, we'd all
The
be
moon
dead.
duplicated. No way.
And oh, good, Catalina's here from Andrew. So we have a colour version. Oh, it was here.
It was here. It disappeared. No, it's because your moon crushed it.
That's right. It's been sucked into the orbit.
So I'm going to look at the tools view cleaner, which has gone colourful as well.
Hey, there we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
This was a few
And
days
it's funny,
earlier, wasn't
when I was going to say, it looks like it's passing past some sort of a cluster there, Paul.
it? That'd be NGC 5823.
Excellent.
I know that one well. They really should give up some better names for these things. I know it's you can't. There's so much stuff out there. Numbers are the best way of going about it. But sure, come on, someone's got to come up with a name for that one. That's lovely. I mean, Paul, what's causing the Go on, I'm going to give you a scientific question now. What's causing the colour of this comet?
That's a very good question, which Dylan will be able to answer.
Okay, so it's a funny thing with space. When we do a lot of these astro photos, the dominant colours that we see are reds because of the massive amounts of hydrogen in the universe, and blues, where we get the blue-white from stars reflecting off clouds and dust and things like that. When we see greens are really special because they suggest oxygen, and they suggest a whole other class of chemical makeup. And whenever I see the Tarantula Nebula, I'm always amazed at how green it is. You just take a straight RGB photo without any processing, and you see this green. It's really bizarre to see. And with comets, we get that that beautiful green because of the ice sublimating and whizzing off into space. It's really, really beautiful. So I'm a fan of whenever you see green in space. It's just really special.
It's true, actually, because, I mean, to be fair, space primarily is kind of blues, reds, and purples. So, that's a fantastic image. Now, I have a couple of bits in Q&A.
Yes, there's a question there about comets passing through the solar system.
Indeed.
I'm not sure how many pass every year, but a quick search says that there could be 100 billion in the Oort cloud, and those get knocked off or come out of their trajectory and pass into our solar system. And so far, as of 2010, we've discovered 4,000 of them. And if you have an app on your phone that loads the comets, you'll see it's a massive list. At any given time, there are hundreds to choose from. Of course, we only get a few of these big ones that become visual every now and then. But good question, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. And we also have one from Denise. And this, I'm going to fill this out to everyone. How did you each get started in astrophotography? How do you even start? An SLR camera, I would guess, but what kind to buy? I mean, so I'm going to put that up to everyone. So, Paul, what got you into astrophotography?
I bought a cheap department refractor and didn't like it, and keep upgrading from there.
Went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a dark, dark rabbit hole to go down. I mean, have you always had an interest in astronomy then? I mean, obviously you went to get that cheap refractor, but I mean, what was kind of that kind of moment for you that when I want to look at space?
It was cheap and on sale.
Oh, I like it. That's fantastic. I was going to say, yeah, and then you realised that it wasn't such a cheap investment after all. So, Dylan, I'm just going right to left here. What got you into it, and how did you start out?
I've always liked taking photos in general, especially photos of nature and birds in particular. And I've always enjoyed space. Like, I'm just a typical boy kid, just loves space and rockets and things like that. And then it was only 18 months ago I bought, it wasn't that cheap, it was a Celestron 4-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, and and like Paul, I quickly discovered its limitations, and I saw these lovely photos that you see on in magazines and on NASA's Photo of the Day, and I really was like, I want to take these photos. And there's a big divide in astrophotography, or the astronomy world in general, between visual and photography. And a lot of the visual guys will sit out there and get their eyes dark adjusted and look at objects, and I just can't. I can't be part of that world. I just can't. I need to take photos. I need to see things and reveal things in the photos that I can't see with my own eyes. And doing these long exposures really make that happen. So for me, it was chasing nebulas, and it's still, I'm still learning stuff every single day. So yeah, that's me.
That's you. That's I was going to say, I know that feeling of having to take photos. Now, Andrew,
how about you?
Same question.
Yeah, well, probably when I was 7 years old, I think it was, in 1986. I got dragged outside by my mum to have a look at Halley's Comet, and as it was passing through the Milky Way. So that's probably what got me going initially. And it wasn't until about 1996, 97 when I started developing the interest again, and I bought my first refractor, a Tasco refractor, 50mm aperture, and then moved up to a TAL 1, which is a Newtonian reflector, 4.3 inch mirror, and I got my first view at M104 on that one, and from the light polluted city. I was only probably about 5 kilometres outside of the heart of the city then, so I was quite happy about that. Nice. And then, yeah, since I'm getting my own place, I've always had the interest. I've gone through numerous observatories. I had a 2.3 metre dome observatory. Yeah, so now I've got my current setup with a roll-off roof, which is going to be automated soon, hopefully. And yeah, still moving up in the world.
Ah, yes, that ever dark rabbit hole that goes on and on and on. I mean, I've just upgraded all my gear, and now I'm thinking, oh, I could get a wide field telescope or something. I suppose I'll answer the question myself as well. It's unfair to pick on everyone else and not include me on that one. For me, as a kid, my dad had like a really small, I can't even remember, it was a very small telescope, a small refractor, stuck it out in the driveway, and we looked at Jupiter together. And after looking at Jupiter, I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And it was one of those kind of moments you like that tiny little pointed light turns into a whole world, and for me that was quite a moment. And then it took me many years to really get back into it, because you know, childhood, teenage years, and all those kind of things. And I love photography. Much like Dylan, I love taking photos. It's one of those things that I do semi-professionally every now and then, and it's a passion of mine. And then randomly I saw in one of the magazines I buy every now and then, photography, someone had posted a picture of a galaxy. It was like, wait, you can photograph stuff in space? That's cool. Wow. And then, yeah, I ended up saving up money to get, actually this tube here is my first telescope. The LX90 was the first one I went for, and then I learned that in my naivety, it's a great telescope, but it needed a lot of changes. You know, I got a wedge for it, and I went from an SLR camera and plugged that in, because I already had the SLR from my normal day-to-day photography. So, you know, you photograph, you know, the occasional wedding and family portrait and things like that. You've already got a camera, so you get a couple of adapters, you can plug it into the back of a telescope, and you can start taking photos. And then it's like, I want better photos. I want to photograph things. So I try to photograph a planet, and it comes out terribly, because SLRs are great for doing deep sky, and some of the ones that can do video are quite good at doing planetary, but the one I have specifically is shocking at trying to do planetary. So you start buying different cameras, and then you realize if you want to do deep sky, you need to be on an equatorial kind of mounting wedge setup, so you buy bits and bobs. And yeah, it's just kind of escalated, and I'm one of those people that I'm walking home or I'm walking somewhere and my head is always pointing up. It's quite dangerous because you occasionally walk into lampposts, but it's become quite the passion for me. It's something that I would try at any given opportunity to, look at something, talk about it. I work in a pub, so I drive all my regulars crazy talking about things in space and going, you should look for this, you look for that, and and it's an ongoing thing. And I enjoy a challenge. And it is a technical challenge to get the gear to work, to learn how it all goes together, and to learn the processing, to learn how to align the telescope so it kind of offsets the Earth's rotation, things like that. There's a lot to learn, and I enjoy that kind of challenge. I was always terrible at school, but if you gave me something and told me to figure it out, I could always kind of work it out, and I like that kind of thing. So this kind of meshes with that as well. So that's me. Kind of childhood inspiration from my dad, followed through by lots and lots of saving and hard work to get this, and now upgrading it and changing it and learning how to do it all over again. So it's a lot of fun, and I recommend it to anyone.
And if I'm gathering from Denise's question that maybe she's thinking about starting, or at least taking a few tentative steps into astrophotography. For someone that wants to take those tentative steps, what would you recommend, Chris?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because it depends on a lot of different factors. If you have an SLR already, you could get yourself all sorts of different telescopes and plug that into the back of that. You could just use like a wide field lens, or even a zoom lens, and do kind of that kind of photography. It depends on really what you want to achieve out of it. I wouldn't do what I did.
Denise is also following up that with saying, when you say the camera needs a series of exposures, do you take several pics of the same object and then have to use some type of stacking software, such as Registax, to get the final image?
Yes. When you take long exposure images with an SLR, you generally are dealing with a lot of noisy images. They come out quite grainy, and you lose detail. And you've also got things like seeing that factor into that. So the more images that you take, you get a better signal-to-noise ratio, which basically means you get rid of that noise by eliminating out the randomness. So if one pixel's always red in every image, then that one will be red in your final image. And if it's randomly different colors, then it eliminates it out to find the correct average. So yeah, you get much more detail and a much sharper image if you stack images. So yes, you end up taking multiple images of the same object and stacking them together to get a better image. It cancels out the noise, and it can bring out the finer details as well that are either lost to the noise or lost to the seeing, because the real detail that's there will eventually come through all the random fluctuations. It just means that it takes a lot longer to image something than just going click and there it is kind of thing. The only thing I think you can image really, really, really ridiculously fast is the sun, because it's stupidly bright. So yeah, stacking is the way to go when you're imaging these things, which leads to if you're doing very long if you're doing exposures really 20 seconds or 30 seconds, you don't really need to worry too much about tracking or being on an equatorial kind of mounting. But if you're doing longer exposures, you then need to go to the whole slanty angles thing with an equatorial setup. I think that answers that, I hope. But yeah, I mean, Dylan, what would you, Dylan, Paul, and Andrew, and I'll say Dylan first, what would you recommend if you're getting into astrophotography?
The digital SLR cameras, Denise, are really, really good these days. The sensors, even on the really cheap ones, you can get a $300-400 DSLR, and I do recommend getting a DSLR. Don't get one of those compact, point-and-click ones. Get one with a removable lens, and just point that at the stars and take a 30-second exposure. bump your ISO up to about 1600 and put the aperture down as low as you can go, and just take a long exposure. Try 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and that's it. That's all you need to do with no further equipment, just a camera and a tripod, to start taking pictures of the stars. And the results that you can get are really fantastic. So that would be my recommendation as a starter for getting into beginner astrophotography. And I'll just give you an example of so if you were doing that, just setting up a camera on a tripod to take photos. I'll show you an example of the sort of image you can get. Just give me a moment. So this is one I took in the desert in Western Australia. So a really low light pollution, but the moon was out at this point. But even with the moon out, the moon lights up the desert, but you can see the stars quite clearly as well because it's a dark sky location. So there's no fancy equipment here. It's just a consumer level camera and a tripod, and that's it. You just set the exposure to go, and you've already started in astrophotography. And some of the best photos in the world, NASA APODs, have been taken this way. So that's a good way to start if you're thinking about getting into it. And if it turns out that you don't like astrophotography, you've got a camera that you can use for other stuff as well.
So this is true. Wide field astrophotography is a lot less demanding in terms of tracking and seeing conditions, things like that. And even weather, like wind, can really kind of muck around when you're trying to do astrophotography. So yeah, a camera and a tripod is a good way of doing it. And if you really get into it, like really get into it, you end up getting things like this. Which monochrome CCD, which I use to photograph planets and the sun. Hence the weird thing on the front there, covered in tape. That's a tilt adapter because of something called Newton rings, which I won't go into now, but tilt adapters are really useful. And then if you're going down the rabbit hole and get fed up with SLR noise and want to do all sorts of filtered images using different wavelengths of light, you eventually go and get weird things that look like this, which is got a fan and does cooling, and you can set the temperature of the sensor, and you can do different wavelengths of light, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, you start to get a bit serious when you go this route.
Yes, you'll see it's a common theme with astronomers, is that they buy something small and then they go, oh, I'll get this other little bit more, and all of a sudden they're divorced and broke and living on the side of the street.
With a great telescope. So, you know, I mean, that's the other thing as well. I have a gigantic focal length on my telescope, whereas a lot of the really interesting stuff, apart from planets and planetary nebulae, I mean, there's a lot of small stuff that's really interesting, but a lot of some of the great images that you see on the internet, the common theme behind them is they're quite wide field. But I have just noticed the time, and believe it or not, despite the fact that we have been skunked on live views, we have managed to hit an hour without, exploding. So that's good. So first of all,
I think Andrew's got a quick daytime Venus as we head out. So thanks for bringing the live again, Andrew, and thanks as well, Paul, for your live as well. We did see that briefly at the beginning with the two split images of different wavelengths of the sun. Really great.
Actually, I shall end with just keep on that screen of Andrew's looking at live Venus with that beautiful crescent. So, thank you, first of all, for Andrew and Paul for trying to bring in the live, who did successfully bring in the live, even if the clouds did interfere with the whole sun view from Paul. Thank you to Dylan for joining me and helping host and talk about the stuff we're looking at.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone that joined in Q&A. Some really good stuff in there. Thank you, Denise, especially for those. Hopefully we answered your questions there. And yeah, maybe set up some kind of student... what's the expression again, Paul? Dylan?
Solarography.
Solarography. Well then, student solarography could be the future. So thank you everyone that joined us and watched us live. I'm sorry about the clouds. I can't control them, unfortunately, because if I could, it would be permanently clear above my house. But we shall try and bring live views. We actually, to be fair, we have been quite successful in bringing live views over the course of these episodes. In fact, we've had some great views of like live comets and all sorts. So fingers crossed for next week and some live views then from the eastern side of the planet. So upside down views of the moon. I think the moon's back next week. Cursed moon. And maybe some live sun for me, even though we are now heading into winter in the UK, so the chances of me seeing sunlight before next year are pretty slim. So thank you everyone for joining us. You can find us on Twitter at Global Star Party. And well, thank you for joining us, and hopefully see you next week. Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.